Okay, number 5. On number 5, you are dealing with a cattle train and a diesel train. And the cattle train, it says the cattle train went for 16 hours before the diesel train. So the cattle train went for 16 hours. The diesel train did not go at all. Cattle train started and traveled for 16 hours before the diesel train. Then the diesel train, it says, traveled for 4 hours. So the diesel went first 0, then it went 3 hours rather. Went 3 hours, and the cattle train also went 3 hours. When the second one starts, the diesel train starts, the second one starts at the same time and travels the same. So the diesel went for 3 hours, the cattle also went for 3 hours, but the cattle went 16 hours first. So the cattle time is 16 plus 3, or 19. The diesel train is 3 plus 0, or 3. Now again, I still, even though I messed it up, which train went slower? The diesel train went slower. So I put the X there, and I put X plus 32 here. Now if you do it backwards, as long as you get them right, it's okay, because it works both ways. It doesn't really matter, as long as you do the problem right. So if you do the slower, you always add to get the faster one. Then it's 3 times X gives you 3X, and the X plus 32 times 19 gives you this one. We have a total of 1686. We add the first box, and the second box is equal to the third box. So we go down, and this is our equation, the top one here. Then you do the remove parentheses, you get this, and it's equal to 1686. 19x and 3x is 22x. That's these two. And then I'm going to subtract the 608 to move it to the other side, to get rid of it. I want the x's together, and I'm going to subtract 608 from both. And when I subtract those, I get 1078. When I divide by 22, I get x is equal to 49. 49. Hold on. Okay? Now, what are you supposed to do with x? Plug it into where x is. Where is x? The diesel train, right? This is 49. That's x. If this is 49, what do I do to get this one? 49 plus 32 is 81. Now, I still need these boxes. I want you to get all the answers. So I don't worry about which one I'm looking for. I just do all of them. What is it? What goes in this box now? How do I find it? Don't use this. Because if this is wrong and you use it, it won't tell you that it's wrong. How do you get this number now? 81 times 19. What's 81 times 19? 81 times 19. I was hoping somebody could take your calculator and put it in. Huh? 15? 1539. 1539? Okay. And on the bottom is 49 times 3, which is 147. Now, even before you answer the question, does this make sense? Does it check out? How do you check it? Add this one to this one. Do you get 1686? 9 and 7 is 16. I carry the 1. That's 7 and 1 is 8, and 15 and 1 is 16. Yes, these two check out, which means this is going to be the right numbers. Now, what is the actual question? How fast is the cattle train, right? Yeah. Cattle train is right here. There's my answer. Okay? Setup. You got to do the hours. We've done the hours for 3 days now. One of them goes so long, and then the second one starts. The one that started first gets that, the other one gets nothing, and then when the second one starts, they tell you how long the second one traveled, and both of them get that number. You add these two, and you end up with your times. If one train is going, or one plane, whatever it is going faster than the other one, if you put X in for the slower, then it's X plus the number that's going faster for the faster one. Okay? Number 6. Julio left home, and Mark drove in the opposite direction. So we have Julio, and we have Mark. Okay? Julio left home and driving north 1 hour before Mark. Who drove that hour? Julio did. Julio drove for an hour before Mark did. So he drove 1, Mark drove none. What else do we know? Mark drove in the opposite direction, going 0 miles per hour slower than Julio for 3 hours. What does it say? Mark drove for 3 hours. Right? So what's Mark's time? 3. And what's Julio's time? The same 3. When Mark started driving, Mark drove for 3 hours. Julio drove for the same 3 hours. So how long did Julio drive for? 4. He drove for 4 hours. That's his time. What is Mark's time? 3 plus 0. It is 3. That's how you do the time. Most of these, not all of them, but most of these do time like this. They give you the first time, that's one driver, one plane, one train, one car, whatever it is, and then they give you this time for the second one, which they both get. And you add them. Okay? Now, here's the thing that threw a lot of you, because you didn't stop and think for a minute. If you have trouble with a problem, you need to read it over several times and think about, what is it actually saying to me? Mark drove in the opposite direction, going 0 miles per hour slower than Julio. If you're going 0 miles per hour slower than I am, are you going 0? No. Am I going 0? What are we both going? We're going the same, because one of us is going no miles per hour slower than the other one. If you're not going slower than somebody else, what are you doing? You're going the same. You got minus 0 or plus 0. The miles per hour tells us how fast one is going faster than the other one, right? You're going 0 faster or slower than the other one. So they're the same. So what is Julio's speed? Does it give us the speed? Then what's his speed? X. What is Mark's speed? X plus 0 or X minus 0, which is what? X. The difference is 0, so they're both going the same speed, so they're both going X. And that's how you set the problem up. Don't make the problem hard. You're going 0 miles an hour slower than the other one. You're going the same speed as he is. So they're both X's. This is 4X. This is 3X. What's the total? 210? So what's the equation? What do I do to get the equation? I add them, right? So it's 4X plus 3X equals 210, and you solve the problem and get your answer. Okay? As long as you think about the 0 and realize the 0 means the speeds are the same, the problem is really simple. A diesel train and a freight train left at the same time. They left at the same time, right? Okay. The freight train traveled in opposite directions. The freight train traveled 43 miles per hour faster than the diesel train. After 10 hours, they were 770 miles apart. What numbers do I know? What's 10 hours? The time for both of them, because they both are the same, right? They both left at the same time, and they both traveled until they were a certain number of miles apart, right? So one of the problem tells us they're the same, right? And then later the problem tells you they traveled for 10 hours. So the times are 10 and 10, right? If you think about what it says, by the way, you really need to do this because you know what? One of our students have one of the problems our students have reading English and changing it into and thinking it through. Some of you don't like to read. Why don't you like to read?
Boring.
Because you have trouble understanding it sometimes. And how do you get better? You have to work at it. Okay. Quiet, please. So we got our times, right? What else do we know? 770 is the total distance. Okay, we write that down. All right, now what else? The freight train traveled 43 faster than the diesel. Which train is going faster? Which train is faster? Freight train. So which train is slower? The diesel slower, so I'm going to put diesel slower, that's my X. How fast is the freight train going? 43 faster. This is always faster, so I'm adding 43. What goes in this box? And what goes in this box? 10 times X plus 43. And how do I get my equation? 10X plus 10 times X plus 43 equals 770, and now you solve your equation. Quiet, please. Amanda left home and drove towards the mountains at an average speed of 45. Catherine left sometime later and drove in the opposite direction, averaging 55. So what do we have? Amanda. Catherine. What do we know about Amanda? Her speed is 45. What do we know about Catherine? Her speed is 55. What else do I know for sure?
That they were 500.
They're 500 apart. Okay? Now, we got to do the time, right? And the time is a little bit, it's the same but different. It's given to you slightly differently. Let's look again. Amanda left home and drove towards the mountains at an average speed of 45. Okay. Catherine left sometime later. How much later did she leave? How many hours later did she leave? We don't know, so it's X. And she drove for how, okay. And so who drove, and then Amanda what? Amanda drove for 5 hours. Okay? So what's Amanda's time? Amanda's 5 hours. Because we know that, right? That they told us. So now the question is, who left first? Amanda left first, right? So what did Catherine do for time? Her time is what? Not 0. If it's 0, she didn't travel. It's, well, I want you to, all right, it's X. It's X. Right? We got all 3 of the other ones, right? It's X. What goes in this box? 45 times 5, which is 225. What goes in this box? And now we do what? 55X plus 225 equals 500. We solve for X and find our answer.